and in case you don't know, Booker T. Washington was born in Hellsford, Virginia, had moved to West Virginia, was working in a coal mine as a teenager. And his mom would only let him go to school if he would work a shift before school because they needed money. The other miners saw how brilliant he was and said, you need to go to college. So he set out and walked 500 miles across the state of Virginia to the Hampton School. Later become the Hampton Institute, had to beg his way in, had no money, no proof of who he was, ended up with the highest GPA there for over 100 years. And as we went on to, start Tuskegee University, he changed our world. So one 16-year-old boy willing to walk 500 miles for an education profoundly changed the way I looked at things.
What did it teach you about yourself when you read that book?
I didn't know what it meant to sacrifice for something that important to me. I didn't know how far somebody would go to build a life for themselves. Booker T never had a last name. It was just Booker. And Taliaferro he picked on his own because it was a common surname in Virginia. He chose Washington because of the respect people gave to the name of George Washington in the city. They didn't even know his date of birth until after he died. And this kid wanted to be educated so bad. Walking across Virginia in the early 60s as a young black, he could lose his life anywhere. I walked the first 500 miles when I walked across America to know what it felt like to be him.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Was that the catalyst that said, I want to start walking across the country to these HBCUs?
That's what made me decide I know I needed to. They gave me the why, is why I did it. I mean, but in prison, the idea came to me. Being in solitary confinement, not solitary, but I was in diagnostics, which is a solitary cell. Lights never went off for 30 days. And I was losing my grip on reality, and I could feel it.
You didn't have lights for 30 days?
No, lights never went off.
Oh, went off?
Because somebody in the barracks was on suicide watch, so all the lights stayed on.
Oh, wow.
And it was just, and breakfast is at 2:30 in the morning, and supper's at 2:30 in the afternoon. Like, it's just it's a rough existence. You have nothing, no Bible. So I started walking in my head. Just imagining everywhere I've ever been, then I started making it up. Places, what streets would look like, people I would meet as a way to keep my sanity. And that was an escape mechanism in prison. When things were just overwhelming, I could just go back into my head and just start walking. I never knew it would turn into something
that's bigger than you. I mean, the walking has turned into something that really has garnered so much. I mean, when you look at your social media, over 300 million views across platforms of people not only coming to learn Black history from you, but also to see your journey, because you started your journey at the Apollo Theater, correct? You started walking from there because you did a lecture there. You did a talk at the Apollo, right?
Yes, ma'am. Back in 2023. Wow. I never realized that night would change my life.
What happened that night?
I got to speak on stage, but there were people in the audience that I didn't know at the time that would later help me open doors for me along the way. My understanding is the Apollo didn't want me speaking there. The people there didn't think it was a good idea to have a white guy come out, somebody that's unknown, and talk about HBCUs. But my friend Albert, who produces the HBCU New York Classic, when he told me, he goes, "You're going to be disruptive, and that's what I want." I'm like, okay, let's do it. And then I also wore Fawn Weaver. She's been on here before, right?
Yeah.
I wore Uncle Nearest on stage for the first time ever. And then I had one of her tour guides come on stage with me and do his art at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And so it was just, I looked out of my hotel room the night before across Manhattan and realized I'm speaking on stage next night at one of the most historic stages in America, especially that's still standing and operating. People dream all their life to come to New York and talk on any stage. And my first professional speaking gig ever was the Apollo.
Wow.
I was about to pee myself. Mouth was dry, leg was shaking.
Yeah. And so this was the beginning to say, I'm going to set out on this journey for people to really understand the work of HBCUs, the power and the value of HBCUs, but also what you've learned along your journey.
Yeah. HBCUs, I grew up around 4 of them in Little Rock, and there's no reason for me to ever have considered their value, right? There was no intersection in my life. So I just went on through life. But as I started researching Black American history stories, historically Black colleges and universities kept coming up, right? This was the common schools where all these people doing amazing things went. And I just like Alabama State, Alabama. I was like, Arkansas has played some of these teams where I'm from. I'm like, we played HBCUs before, UAPB in Arkansas. So there's a familiarity, but what I started to discover about the community is it's just unique. It's this bubble within America that is so good. It is so much that's right with America is in this bubble, and it never gets talked about. And you see, I stumble forwards. I have such strong feelings. For instance, if I were to hire you, right? You attended Hampton University. If I saw it on your resume, knowing what I know, I'm like, that is very intriguing to me because I know when I need to hire somebody else, I can come to you and say, Brandi, do you know somebody? You're like, you know what I do in my network.
Yeah.
You saved me so much headache. And I know if you're a good hire, you're probably going to hopefully bring in another one. People don't see those values there. I could teach anybody to do a job, right? And so if I see Morehouse or Miles, I understand where they came from. I understand the education they got. I know what I'm working with.
Yeah.
I just wish more people would see that.
And you believe that's an elevated experience.
Yeah. Okay. For instance, when Georgia and Florida fans see each other somewhere, they're not going SEC, but Morehouse and Howard run into each other. It's what's going on, my guy. It's family. You might be cousins and you might argue, but you're family.
About who's better.
And then you add the Divine Nine to it.
Yeah.
It's just a whole nother level.
So what has been one of the most intriguing or fascinating stories that you've learned in your journey of uncovering Black American history?
That's a hard one, but I'm probably going to say one of my favorite is, oh boy, that's a toss-up. I'm going to go with Frederick McKinley Jones, a man who was orphaned at 11 years old and had a sixth grade education who changed our world with mechanical refrigeration. It's how you get frozen foods in your stores. He partnered with Dr. Charles Drew to help create these units they would drop into World War II so soldiers could receive blood on the field, saving tens of thousands of lives. This man had an incredibly brilliant life, uber successful, and nobody knows about it.
Yeah. You one of the stories that has gone viral that you've talked about is Black Americans saving Cadillac. Yeah.
I love this because I told that story. What people don't know is on that stage were about 100 men and women who were just out of prison and jails into reentry programs. That's who the audience was. And there were several white supremacists, like Nazi swastikas tattooed on them in that crowd.
Wow.
Now, these are gentlemen who's given up their life, but they still bore the scars of where they came from in that brotherhood. So I told that story, and there were 3 black girls in the crowd that night. That was it. It was all white. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And so I told the story, and they loved it.
Yeah.
Just proving that we can unite over history. It doesn't divide us.
You got to tell the story, though, George.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this, but in 19th Cadillac, I'm going to start over. Okay. Cadillac was founded, Leland Harvey, I can't believe his last name. He bought the company from Henry Ford. It was Henry Ford's second failed company. And if you don't know, Cadillac is named for Antoine de la Mothe Cadillac, who founded what would later become the city of Detroit. So Cadillac sales dropped at the beginning of the Great Depression. When it hit, Cadillac was a luxury automaker. Most cars at the time were between $300 and $500. Cadillac started at $2,900 and went up to $9,700. It was a luxury item that nobody could afford. So they lost like 80-something% of their sales over the next 5 years. And they were desperate. And a man named Nicholas Drystad came into the board meeting where they were shutting Cadillac down and said, I think I can save the company. And they're like, yeah, right. How? And he's like, we don't sell to anybody but white people. And he goes, I tour dealerships all over in the South. The Black American elite, the judges, doctors, attorneys, they're buying Cadillacs. And they're like, but we don't sell to black people. He's like, I know. They're paying the white man $300 to go buy the car for them. And so that's the transaction. He goes, we're missing out. So they decided in 1934 Cadillac would not discriminate on who they sold cars to. And sales went up 70% in that 1 year. And a lot of people ask, well, if it's the Great Depression, how come black Americans had the money and white folks didn't? It's because banks didn't like black people's money. And when the banks failed, a lot of people in my community lost everything. And I always say this, a friend of mine's grandfather had told him, the only reason I knew we were in the Great Depression because a white man was going through my trash. And I was like, wow, never thought about it. So Cadillac became one of the very first companies to hire black Americans for things outside the factory, design, innovation, et cetera. So I tell that story because Cadillac transcends race, gender, sexuality. Doesn't matter who you are or what you are. If you love Cadillac, there is a giant community that loves you.
Yeah.
And that was but we wouldn't know it had Black America not saved them.
If that blessed you, trust me, you've only scratched the surface. There's so much more wisdom, truth, and transformation waiting in the full conversation. Click the link in the caption below to watch the entire interview. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Vault Empowers Talks.